So we are on the second day of the FDP, and I'm glad to have with us Dr. Nitin Goyal, sir. He is a renowned scientist, principal scientist, and chair at CSIR NEERI Research and Innovation Center, Mumbai. He is famous for his expertise and impactful contributions in the field of environmental science and engineering. With a robust academic foundation, Dr. Goyal earned his Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering in 1997 and Master of Engineering in Environmental Engineering in 2000 from Malviya National Institute of Technology, Jaipur. He later achieved a doctorate in Environmental Science and Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay in 2008, focusing on the characterization and source apportionment of ambient PM 2.5 and PM10 in Mumbai and Pune. With 27 years of professional experience, Dr. Goyal is a leading expert in air quality management, specializing in source apportionment of particulate matter PM 2.5 and PM10, physical and chemical characterization of aerosols, and advanced air quality monitoring techniques. His work has culminated in 25 publications in reputed journals and numerous accolades, including the prestigious Young Scientist Award by the Department of Science and Technology for his groundbreaking air quality management study in Mumbai. Dr. Goyal has also been recognized as an invited speaker at the Indian Science Congress and received the Best Paper Presentation Award at the IASTA International Conference. His career achievements are further underscored by academic honors such as the National Scholarship Award and teaching assistantship at IIT Bombay. Through his pioneering research and dedication to advancing environmental sustainability, Dr. Nitin Goyal continues to influence the fields of air quality science and environmental engineering. I thank you, sir, on behalf of the Civil Engineering Department at IPS Academy for accepting our request and enlightening us today by your presence. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this kind introduction. So, still people are entering the room. Some people are still in waiting. So, I will share my screen in the meantime and start some discussion on some basics. This will stop the other screen sharing. Is it all right if I share my screen, madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. So, is this in the screen sharing mode now?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
And can you see the first slide in full screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Because there are so many platforms these days, I get confused at times as to what to share and how to share. So,
No issue, sir. The screen is very much visible.
okay. So, as I discussed with you, um, firstly, let me say that it's very difficult to take a talk online when you can't see anybody. So you can't see any participant because the whole screen is shared now. So I can't see the faces of the participants and their reaction. So normally when we are one to one, it is easier to deliver such a talk. So I will try my best to keep you engaged, and I would ask for some participation from the participants. I will ask some questions. Please feel free to talk. Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So because let's spend the next hour or so, hour and 1 hour, which we have been given, to try and learn something, which we have been doing here. I currently am working with NEERI, and this is the vision and mission of NEERI. We develop technologies. We do a lot of environmental monitoring work with various government bodies and for private bodies. I am stationed out of Mumbai, and we have a zonal center in Mumbai. These are the scientists who work with me at Mumbai. And if you look at the domains, we work in almost all domains of environment, be it air quality monitoring and modeling, water resource management, wastewater treatment and management, environmental monitoring for various parameters, EIA studies, solid and hazardous waste management, environmental policy and health. So even beyond this, if we get some request for a study, we try and find ways and means to do that, right? So let's just warm up a little bit and try and understand climate change for a minute so that by the time people join in, we don't lose out on the time. So, can somebody tell me what is climate change? Why is it happening? How is it happening? Just a quick 2 lines, 3 lines. Please feel free. You all are teachers, I believe. So, I think speaking is.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
No, climate change is some when we see that that temperature. When the temperature is first of all increasing, because of that abnormal behavior. You have sudden floods. You have sudden very heavy rains. 1 month rain coming at one day, or you have droughts somewhere. You have perennial period of droughts, or you have the glaciers melting, sea level rising, and then you have lot of places getting drowned off. So I think this is what I will say climate change. What's happening is sudden rains, sudden droughts, the water cycle getting shifting, the carbon cycle getting shifting. That's how we understand this climate change.
And why is it happening? So this is climate change.
So one reason is, of course, because of the greenhouse gases. The carbon dioxide emission is on the rise, which is because of either power, we're using too much power, and that to coal-based power, which is leading to this carbon dioxide emission. Then we have methane emissions rising. There's a lot of transport vehicles that's also causing a lot of this carbon dioxide, as well as some nitrogen dioxide, N2O coming into the picture. Because of these greenhouse gases, the solar energy is not able to go back. It's retained here, and then this is leading to the temperature increase, and then the climate change.
Very good. So, so you have already, why and how both of you have answered very well. Thank you so much. So, we all understand that there are, in the recent past, there have been experiences by humankind, by mankind, regarding various abnormal behaviors in the climate overall, right? And let me just quickly introduce a short difference between weather and climate, right? So short-term changes in the atmospheric variables such as temperature and rainfall, right? That is weather. Whereas long-term state of atmospheric variables like rainfall and temperature when it's happening, that is what we mean as climate. So weather is what is happening outside right now. Whether climate occurs over a long period of time. So if you live in a climate that is described as dry, it does not mean that there cannot be rain tomorrow. Tomorrow's rain will probably be a weather event, whereas a rain which is generally lacking over a period of time in a particular area may be because of climate change. So that is a subtle difference I wanted to introduce here. There are various systems in the climate. I will just skip these slides. You all are aware about these things. The climate system, it is basically everything is changing. Changes in the amount of outgoing radiation, incoming solar radiation, type of cloud cover, atmospheric composition, amount of ice which is covering the land. If you go to the ocean, changes in ocean circulation patterns, right? And a lot of other things which are happening around us, right? So this is what this slide particularly tells us. I would skip the basics of the atmosphere. You all are aware of these things. Okay, so we just heard from our participant that the major factors that cause climate change are natural variations, right? Which can happen over a period of thousands of years. Then there are volcanic eruptions, which basically disrupt climate due to aerosols. And then on the top of it, there are human activities. Now, what we can control out of these three is the third one, or is the human activity, because the first two are outside our control, right? So we cannot help with the natural and the volcanic, right? But the human activity is something which we can probably control. And humans have been modifying the environment for thousands of years, and our understanding and our knowledge was not about carrying capacity. We just used up the resources of the earth, and we altered the ground cover by fire, by overgrazing, by deforestation, and so many other things, which resulted in modification of the climatological factors such as reflectivity, evaporation rates, and surface winds. Now, the addition of CO2 from the last 100 of years, right, and other trace gases to the atmosphere are also contributing to the global climate change, as rightly pointed out, right? And these, trace gases are methane, nitrous oxides, chlorofluorocarbons, and so on, right? Now, again, we understand this CO2 comes from combustion, deforestation, methane, and then, other gases. So why did we choose transportation emissions today, right? So the next question which I have to the participants is, why environment is important to transportation, or what is sustainable transportation, or what information should city planners have when deciding the future infrastructure of a city, right? Sort of related but different questions. So if somebody can just talk, let's talk about Indore. If everybody's from Indore, I also was born and brought up in Indore, so we can talk about Indore. Then we'll see the case study of Mumbai.
Sir, environment is very important for transportation because when we transport, definitely there will be carbon emissions.
Correct.
So I think we have to keep that in mind. Especially there will be emissions like carbon dioxide. There could be carbon monoxide, and the problem is it will also have SOx and NOx. At least carbon dioxide can be absorbed by the plants. There is no solution for SOx and NOx, as well as particulate matter, again to an extent by plants. That's why I think it's very important to keep in mind how much emissions we are doing. So that will decide whether we go for a road transport, rail transport, or maybe through water. Waterway sometimes can be better. So based on that, we have to see how much emissions we are doing.
Correct. Anybody else? Any other aspect?
I think we can increase the bike path, because if you look at some of the developed countries, like or some cities in the developed countries, they have designated bike path. So probably using that more could be a better option. I mean, at least at the local scale commuting, like daily commuting, like for example, if you look at Amsterdam, they can actually rent a bike and they can put that bike in one place to other place. They can rent from one designated place from a city, and after going to their destination, they can drop it also. Like, it's not like they have to buy also a bike, they can rent a bike also. So that is in certain cities that they have done that, and I think we
it
can
is there in Indore also, right? Indore में भी है वो bike तरह की bike है या नहीं है Indore में भी? It's there in Mumbai. Some parts of Mumbai it is there.
So the carpooling can also be a solution, because right now we are doing it in our college also.
Let me stop.
Carpooling.
Let me stop you. I am not talking of mitigation measures right now, right? I am just talking about how are these emissions coming from. So I think Mr. Varun actually pointed out about emissions because of fossil fuels. But if I am looking at overall sustainable transportation planning, right, are there other sources of emissions which I'm looking at? Can somebody just talk about it? So when I'm making a road, when I'm making a transportation corridor, even emissions are that time, right? So, and when I'm doing these interventions, right? So it is not only the road infrastructure. When I'm talking of a transportation scenario, right? As pointed out by Mr. Varun only, that it can be through waterways, it can be through airways, it can be through, as pointed out by Ms. Ghosh, it can be through dedicated bike paths, right? So when we want to develop these things, we need to look at so many other aspects of a city planning. Sustainable transportation, it is not only the last leg emissions, but it is also a study wherein we need to find out what will work best for a city. So today morning, when I was talking to the host of this event, Dr. Jagwani, I was discussing with her, and she said that will be a lot of participants are looking for answers, right, as to how best we can do things. I said, well, answers, environmental scientists have found answers, to a lot of things over the past 50, 70, 100 years. But all answers have led to more problems. So now, since the time we have started talking of sustainable, right, then people have started looking at environment as a amalgamation of various sciences, various disciplines, management comes into play, implementation comes into play, policy comes into play, right? So it is not only an engineering solution, it is also a solution which encompasses various domains, right? Is that all right? Do you agree with me?
Sir, I totally agree. I think it's not only engineering. I think it's basically awareness. We are wasting power day in, day night. We are wasting water despite
Yeah.
knowing it's very scarce and we will be getting stressed. So I
Yes,
think it is somehow the awareness which is lacking in us.
correct,
We have
correct.
not
So,
seen the problem, so we just imagine that problem will not come. It will come to somebody else. But that's
yes,
not going to happen.
I think it is beyond awareness also. It is just that unless and until it costs you some money, it is a resource which is cheaply available or it is freely available, right? So you are wasting it. The moment you start paying $1 to it, yeah, you start appreciating the value of it. So I think that's where it is. So let's dwell into the lecture. Thank you for your comments, and let's come to the scenario in Mumbai. So Mumbai is 75% population resides in suburban areas. So MMR area, if you look at Mumbai Municipal Corporation area, and if you actually cover the whole of MMR, Mumbai Metropolitan Region. So MMR region is 6,500 square kilometers, and Mumbai is just 10% of it, right? So one can understand that 90% of Mumbai is not Mumbai, but it is the suburban Mumbai, right? Commuters need to travel daily for jobs. It is so much so that uh, in South Bombay, the per square kilometer density of population is in lakhs of people, right, in the daytime, and it reduces to some thousands at night time. So that itself shows that there is a very huge need of transportation daily, right? About 43% commuters, this data is a little older, 4 or 5 years back, right? But will not be very different, right? About 43% commuters use the rail system, which is a very efficient system in Mumbai, right? While 35% use motorized vehicles. The average distance traveled by commuters in the suburban railways is highest in India at about 24 kilometers per trip, right? Now, the private vehicles have increased from 2.3 million in 2005 to about 7.2 million in 2017, which is an older data, and should be around 8 to 9 million by now. The best bus system, which is operating the most of the fleet in Mumbai, it operates with a road congestion index of about 34. So proximity, you will see in the next slide as to where in other parts of the world the congestion index is lower, right? The road congestion level is almost 97%. An average vehicle speed is not more than 8 kilometers an hour in the city, right? So even if I have to go 5 kilometers right now from where I am in my office, right? The average time which I will be shown on Google Maps is about 25 minutes, maybe more now because the evening peak hour has now started, right? This is due to the increase of about 3 times in private vehicles per thousand population and the public transportation gradually decreasing, dropping from 88% in 1991 to 65% in 2020 and still lower now, right? Let me go back to my initial question so that you can understand why we are talking of all these things, right? We can basically adopt best practices from other places, maybe other cities, maybe other examples. But the moment we have to design a transportation system or policy for a particular city in India, we need to study all the background. We need to actually put all the facts on table and then weigh them against what is the business as usual scenario, against what if we actually develop transportation which is based on metro rail or which is based on BRTS corridor. I just heard that the BRTS corridor in Indore is going to be scrapped. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
I think, yeah, there was some news that the CM of MP has actually said that they will be removing BRTS because there has been a lot of complaints. Though for a very long time, it was showcased as the successful BRTS, right? I think that's how we knew about it. but now finally it has been taken away. So a design, a policy which was good about 15 years or 10 years back is no more a solution today, right? So that's the kind of things we have to understand before we uh, develop such mass transportation systems, because it might lead to a lot of waste of money as well as public green spaces, right? So average commuter distance using different modes in Mumbai, right? By rail, I say that it is about 24 kilometers. By car, about 12. By buses, it's about 9 kilometers. Taxis, 7 kilometers. Two-wheelers, 6. Then there are autos, which is about 4.3. And then people do walk also a lot in Mumbai, right? Which is about 1.4 kilometers, right? This is the decreasing share of overall public transportation of all forms over the years. Can somebody comment why public transportation is decreasing trend, though we are developing one of the best infrastructure in the
Because the
country?
disposable incomes are going up. So we are having more car, more our own vehicles, and less relying on public transport, I guess.
That is one reason, right? Uh, there has been other reasons also. Can somebody talk of some other reasons? So disposable income, people are buying cars. It has become a social stigma to be traveling in a local train. So people say, oh, I got a taxi, I come in my own car. That is something which is there. But I still know people who want to travel by train, but they are restricted somehow. Why? Because of last mile connectivity, right? So if I have to train from where my office is in Worli, Mumbai, I have to, at least travel about 20-25 minutes, right? Maybe half an hour to catch the train, right? Now, once I catch the train, I'll take another hour to reach somewhere, and then I'll have to find another transportation to go back to my home, right? Now, if I look at the overall time frame, I've spent about 2 hours in all of this. If I take my own car and travel from my workplace to my residence, right? I might be in congestion, I might be in matlab heat, but yeah, overall I'll probably reach in 1.5 hours, right? So that is another issue with mass transportation systems, that it does not start from your home. You have to have some other connectivity from your home to the place from where you will start your journey in the public transport. So that has been also reducing, because people have been making homes and residences away from the city centers and away from the transportation hubs. So if you look at Mumbai, major developments happened around stations, around local stations. The maximum property rates are around stations because it is easier. Maximum commercial properties are around railway stations because it is easier for people to commute, right? But now people are living everywhere. So that is another reason why the public transportation share has been reducing, right? Also, the other reason which we will come to a little later in the talk. Let's leave it right now there only. We will touch upon it. Now, the current modal share of public transportation in Mumbai,
Sir,
railway.
can you be a bit louder? Can you be a bit louder? I can't really hear you.
Okay, is that all right now? I was
Yes, much better, much better.
better. Okay, I've just closed in my laptop, so I'm not speaking through a microphone. I'm relying on the microphone of the laptop. So the current modal share of public transportation in Mumbai, railway is about 43, bus 20%, two-wheelers 12%, taxi 9, car 9, rickshaw 5, and metro and monorail 2%. Now this is about 5 years back. Now in the last 5 years, some new metro lines have been opened, and some traffic and some people have started using them. So this will be a little different today, right? But I'll come back to that 34% congestion index. So if you look at this chart, the orange line actually talks about the congestion index, which is the lowest in Tokyo. And you can see that, you know, um, the average speed of vehicles is about 30.5 kilometers per hour. In Shanghai, it is almost double, but still the vehicle speed is 34.9, right? So they are not directly proportional, but in Mumbai, it is 34, and the average speed is just about in single digit. It is 8 kilometers an hour. So that's the kind of congestion we are living in. And all other major cities, including Indore also today, right, will have very high congestion. I I saw it a few years. Whenever I travel to Indore, I see that, you know, the the distances which I used to cover in 5-10 minutes about 10 years back, now they are 15-20 minutes away, right? Because of, huge traffic congestion, right? The registered motor vehicle population is increasing, so that is what the trend shows, right? Now, this is a Asian Development Bank value for money framework for assessing the urban transportation infrastructure projects, right? Let's start from the economic, which is a blue section here, right? So it says about equality and connectivity. From environmental point of view, it talks about health and emissions. From the public accounts, which is public money point of view, it is talking about sustainability and self-reliance. And from social point of view, it is talking about safety and accessibility, right? So if you develop an infrastructure project, it should be, it should have all the green marks in all the columns of this framework, right? Which is the ideal framework, right? Now, in Mumbai, commuters take faster means of transport, which is dual modes like trains and buses, right? The low and middle income group category, they travel mainly by trains and buses, right? And they also take rickshaws and they walk. The high income groups, they prefer to travel by cars, right? And, about 25% also travel by buses and trains, right? The 69% of high income group people normally travel up to 20 kilometers and they can take about 40 to 60 minutes. The low income group travel more than 10 to 15 kilometers, and that also takes about 45 minutes to an hour time, right? This is a, news item where people have been complaining about, congestion. I will not talk about it, but you all have seen this in whatever cities you are living even today, right? Now, this is some study which we conducted for the emission inventorization and source apportionment. And what we did was we actually collected area source, line source, point source, and emissions, and we subjected them to a dispersion modeling exercise. And this, what you see here, is a 2 by 2 kilometer grid over the whole MMR region, right? And what we basically were trying to understand is what are the emissions in each grid, so that we can understand how much is the transportation sector contributing to the overall emissions in that grid, right? So 60 major junctions were identified covering the whole city, right from the Dahisar Chek Naka in the west to Mulund Chek Naka in the east to the Kolaba in the south. And for vehicular survey, they were classified into cars, which were CNG, petrol or diesel, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, heavy-duty buses and trucks and trailers. The vehicle survey was carried out throughout the day, right? So in the morning peak hour, in the afternoon average, and then in the evening peak hours, and then in the night time, right? This was basically to understand the different types of vehicle kilometer traveled on, in different areas, right? So if you look at VKT in thousands in various shifts of the day, we can see that during morning peak hours to evening peak hours, there's a difference of vehicle kilometers traveled, right? Two-wheelers dominated in the suburban areas, whereas cars and petrol cars and diesel cars, they actually dominated in the South Mumbai area. Now, if you look at emission factors which are calculated using the ARAI, which is Automotive Research Association in India, right? So we basically used all sorts of fuel combinations, right? Which is post 2005 BS2, and then we also used BS4 emissions, right? Which were present at that point of time, right? BS6 were proposed at that time, but in 2020 they were actually implemented, right? So these are the three different charts based on which we calculated, right? The emission factors. Emission factors is basically emissions per kilometer traveled of the vehicle. So if I am looking at petrol car, right? So we are saying that the per kilometer traveled, the emissions of petrol car are so and so, right? And this figure basically talks about the pollution load from different categories of vehicles. So if you look at heavy duty diesel vehicles, they are the ones which are mostly dominated in terms of PM, in terms of NOx, in terms of SOx, in terms of also CO, right? So you must have also read today, if you are following the Delhi news, they have banned diesel vehicles which are BS4 or lower in the Delhi region because of the GRAP 3 regulations, right? So that is something which is very much prevalent. Even the cars which are based on diesel, they are emitting a lot of SOx, right? So this is hydrocarbons, and this is the total pollution load. So if you look at the total pollution load, this chart on the right, we can see that the heavy duty diesel vehicles, they are contributing about 35%, petrol cars about 7%, diesel cars about 2.5%, then CNG about 3.5%, taxis about 3.5%, three-wheelers are contributing to about 22%, two-wheelers to about 14%, and then we have CNG, which is also contributing, about 12 to 13%, which are basically the buses. In the last few years, we in Mumbai we have shifted to a lot of electric buses also, but the adaptation is still underway, and we look forward to more, buses which are based on like the electric technology, right? Now this is ward-wise emission loads. So A, B, C, D, E, what you see on the x-axis, these are the wards. F/N means F north ward, F/S means south ward, right? Or H/E means, it is HE, east and then west. So Mumbai, we talk of north, south, east, west a lot, right? So this is the distribution of the vehicles ward wise, and we can see that the maximum PM, in terms of kg per day, right, is by heavy duty diesel vehicles in the S ward, right, which is dominating the whole group here. Even the NOx, we can see that is being dominated in the S ward. So let's summarize these graphs, right? Heavy duty diesel vehicles contribute about 70%, that is about 3,100 kg per day, followed by three-wheelers, which is about 22.5 thousand kg per day, and rest types of vehicles contribute about 8%, right? Shift 3 shows the maximum from heavy duty vehicles, although the heavy duty vehicle distribution is 6%, but the maximum emission of PM is observed from these types of vehicles. The NOx highest emission is of about 23,000 kg per day, and it's observed for heavy duty diesel vehicles, which is about 57%, followed by CNG buses, which is about 17%, right? So SOx emissions calculated based on sulfur content, right? The maximum emission load is observed for heavy duty diesel vehicles, which is about 430 kg per day, and for diesel cars about 304 kg per day. The CO emissions from HDDV is around 36%, which is about 15,000 kg per day, followed by two-wheelers, right? As we understand that two-wheeler engines are not that efficient, the CO emissions are very high, about 8,500 kg per day, followed by petrol cars, which is about 6,500 kg per day, right? The hydrocarbon, which is mainly contributed from three-wheelers, right, is about 52%, 17,500 kg. Next by CNG buses and then cars. So this is the broad understanding of the emissions in thousands of kgs per day, right? And this news, which also was highlighted at one point of time, that even making the tolls free, right? There was no peak hour congestion relief, right? But recently the government has freed up all the tolls inside the MMR region, so you don't have to pay toll, and the vehicle movement has improved somehow, right? But no study has currently been undertaken to actually see whether the congestion is still there or not, right? But traffic congestion, why is important? Because it reduces average traffic speed. Average trip speed is less than 20 kmph, right? And a 10-kilometer trip can take about 30 minutes. At such speeds, the vehicular emissions are about 4 to 8 times than what normally we would, have. And at some junctions, the traffic congestion is so high that the VKT rise is ironically not high, but emissions is very high, right? So there have been studies which have actually said that in India, when we actually are talking about infrastructure, development and spending on infrastructure, we are burning crores, hundreds of crores of fuels daily in traffic jams across the country. So, and we are also spending a lot of money in buying that fuel, right? About 80-85% of our fossil fuel need is being imported from the foreign. So now it's a policy matter with whether we want to invest in buying more fuel or maybe save the fuel by making infrastructure more, what you call adaptive to the conditions of a city so that there are no jams, right? So there was on a lighter note, there was a conference where I was invited, and there were a lot of corporates. So I was talking to them, and people were talking of a lot of uh, social, what you call CSR activities, corporate social activities, which they undertake in villages. I say, well, your products are sold in Mumbai or Delhi, or for that, say, in major metros and major cities in the country. They are your biggest consumers, right? But you are doing your CSR in villages where you have your production facilities. Please also spend some money by adopting the roads in these cities, right? Because in that forum, everybody agreed that roads are in bad conditions, the road planning is not good, signals are not synchronized, there is no space on the road, congestion is there. So I said, why don't you manage those things? Give some money to the authorities or to some bodies who can help you design traffic and transportation systems. Adopt those roads. Name those roads as Tata, Birla, or Adani or Ambani roads, right? So you are big corporates, and you just manage those roads. I think that would be a big contribution to the overall country. Yes, Varun, please go ahead.
So my question is like a lot of you told, lot of NOx and COs and SOx are all coming out, and we are getting suffered without our mistakes. Like I stay in Goa and the Chungam road is the busiest road. So why should I suffer for the convenience of vehicle owners? So why doesn't the government levy the tax? Let's say either per kilometer they can levy 7 or 8 rupees per kilometer and develop the medical facilities, or they can levy on petrol. Let's say 100% more tax and
We will,
collect it.
we will,
And
we will come to that. We will come to that. I have that slide in the presentation where we will talk of various ways of discouraging private vehicle use, right? So that people do shift to sustainable transport modes. We will come to that, right? And thanks for mentioning Goa. We IIT Bombay and NIRI actually did a study in Goa recently for the source apportionment, and we are also looking at uh, climate action plan for Goa now. So we don't have the project yet, but the Goa government is proactively looking to develop a climate action plan also. So a lot of action happening in Goa. Don't worry. I think over a period of time things will get better, right? Though the transportation systems are being improved, I hear that some major highways have been constructed, right? But slowly this understanding has been creeping in, and I also happen to know that some of the think tanks in the country are also working with environmental groups now. They have started acknowledging the need of designing policies or uh, developing newer technologies based on the environmental awareness. So I think that will happen over a period of time. There is talk of congestion tax. There is talk of 20 years, 25 years. I think 20 years back when I was in US, the congestion tax was there at that time. So if you have to travel into New York in your own car, you have to pay some 5, 10, $20 just to enter New York in your car. So my friend was there. We were staying in New Jersey. So he said, let's go by bus. It is cheaper and better rather than taking your own car, because even the parking there would be very costly. So that kind of things basically uh, were present 20 years back in those cities and countries. So we are still learning, and there are challenges. I believe there are geopolitical and there are other issues in the same. So we'll not talk on this forum right now about these things, but let's stick to the technical part right now. So at some junctions, okay, I said the second point which says that street networks in most parts of Greater Mumbai are old, narrow. Their capacity is reduced considerably due to encroachments, on-street parking, pedestrian walking on the carriageway. So pedestrians will walk on the carriageway if there is no space for them to walk, right? But that's the situation. Close proximity to commercial areas and markets, right? Um, that is something which has been there, and this is the same grid map which I showed you some time back, which shows that in various grids how the transportation and vehicle kilometers traveled per day is there, right? Um, what is the congestion impact in Mumbai city? So if you look at CO2 emissions per liter of fuel burnt at arterial roads of Mumbai for a car, right? So, if you just look at, the same engine size and in normal traffic and in peak traffic, right? You will see there is, a huge difference in the kind of emissions which we are getting, right? Uh, Emission reduction strategies. Now, we have talked a lot about pollution, and we normally tend to do a lot about these things, right? We just keep talking about there is pollution, there is pollution. Let's talk about the reduction strategies. Now, I believe your inputs would pour in, right? Now, reduction strategies addressing both technical and non-technical issues, right? Which is the current ambient air quality standards, exhaust emission standards, emission inventorization, vehicular population composition, infrastructure availability, and the techno-economic feasibility for Mumbai, right? What do you think these can be now? Because I have some points here, but I would want some ideas now. Let's have some other people contribute to the discussion. We have heard Varun, we have heard Ms. Ghosh.
Sir, I am Dr. P.K. Shukla from Prayagraj, Uttar Pradesh.
Namaskar, Dr. Sir.
My question is, sir, can we take the help of some plants for reducing the air pollution?
Yes, there has been, undoubted understanding that, plants do help basically by the way of absorption of CO2. So that is, they are the sinks, right? Also, they capture dust on their leaves, right? So a lot of these plants have been known to be useful. The whole problem with mega metropolises like Mumbai and even, smaller cities these days is the space, right? So our greed for cutting every damn tree and then making a concrete platform or a utility platform or footpath or whatever, right, is something which is unabated, right? So we'll get into that discussion mode a little later, but right now I am talking about what can be the reduction strategies, and this is what we had actually devised, right? Which is based on experiences from across the globe, that there should be improvement in fuel quality and alternate fuels should be encouraged. And when we are saying this, I will also show you the analysis in the next few slides, how these things will improve. Improvement in vehicle related components after exhaust treatment and retrofitment. So if you look at a BS6 diesel engine today, it comes with a diesel particulate filter and a catalytic converter, right? And the DPF is a costly equipment, right? But yeah, it is being made available now. Synchronization of traffic signals, which is something which we have done a lot. IIT Bombay is extensively working on it. Inspection and maintenance program is something which is also very important. Transport planning and traffic management, right? Options like phasing out of old vehicles. That policy has already been announced by the ministry, and they are encouraging scrapping of old vehicles. Revision of emission standards. So we are already from BS4 to BS6, we have already graduated, right? Encourage public transport, encourage non-motorized transport. A lot of encouragement has come in the last few years in terms of electric vehicles, and reduce dust-free suspension. Now, a lot of studies which we have conducted even in Goa also, right? we found that resuspension of road dust is a huge issue, right? So even if there is no pollution on the road, just the movement of vehicles, the dust is there. And if we have to accept the fact that we are in India, which is a dry country overall, it rains for a few months. And if you talk of, cities like cities in Rajasthan, or in Kutch area of Gujarat, it rains for a few days in a year. So we are basically a dry country. We are not like European countries where it rains almost daily. So rain itself is a natural cleanser, right? It also promotes growth of vegetation by default. So that is not a boon we have. We are already a very dry country and we have a very temperate weather. So that is something which we have to live with, right? So let's talk of some of these interventions, right? The way they were envisaged. Varun, go ahead, please.
Sir, can we have a situation where we have 2 or 3 hours, let's say, of non-motorized transport? Now, during these 3 hours, the motorized transport is not allowed on a particular road. And then what happens is because of the plume, the pollution goes away and doesn't concentrate. Do you think that's an option?
I don't know. It's a good idea, right? It was like even an odd idea which happened in Mumbai that which happened in Delhi, right? Wherein the vehicles with odd number plates were allowed on a particular day and not allowed on the other days. What it basically, but our experience of even and odd, one of our scientists at NEERI had done some studies of even and odd. There was not much difference in the emissions actually, right? Because people actually started using different methods because you could not, that was only for private vehicles. So they were hiring taxis, and the same issue comes into play that if you have disposable income, people will start using the other ways. And the other point in this, which might be that, I have paid, somebody can say that, I have paid road tax to the government to use a car. Now, how can you stop me? And there is an emergency and, there is some urgent need, So a lot of these social issues will start playing up, right? So very difficult to do that. That's what I'm saying that uh, it, it, uh, it requires a whole level of different thought, and that's where in the morning I was talking to Dr. Jagwani, right? That I just read in the newspaper that a new policy of solid waste management is being planned from October 2025, in which it is not only uh, the governments or the municipal corporations purview, it is also inclusive of the responsibilities of citizens of the country, right? So when there was a ban on single-use plastics, it was not only an authority which can stop you, right? At the level of at the level of every individual, we have to adopt it, right? That we will say no to single-use plastic, right? But very, very difficult. The way plastic has intruded our lives, it is just becoming impossible to say no, right? And if you look at Mumbai, I was just giving her an example that if you go to a vegetable market, right, there is so much of rush, and the vendor does not have time to look at your jhola, right? He will put every vegetable in the plastic ka thali and just wrap it quickly and give it to you, right? Even if you're saying no, he does not have time to listen to you. Even he's weighing in the same packet, because even to weigh he's not carrying another piece. So वो प्लास्टिक की थैली में ही सामान डाला, उसी में वे करा और आपको दे दिया, राइट? अब आपको फेंकना है, रखना है, इट्स योर परव्यू. So it's the question actually comes back to a lot of self-discipline. But let's stop. Let's go to the technical part again, right? So reducing emissions per unit of fuel, which is basically the improvement in fuel quality, installation of after-treatment devices, tackle fuel adulteration, right? Use of alternative fuels, renewal of vehicle fleet, improving traffic flow are some of these things which would basically go a long way in reducing emissions per unit of fuel consumption, right? Also, reducing fuel consumption per unit distance, which is changed to better technology engines, improve vehicles inspection and maintenance, better road maintenance itself would actually reduce your emissions, right? The third point is reducing vehicle distance traveled, right? So increase private car pooling. Somebody, I think somebody pointed out, private car pooling promote better and more public transport, demand management, encourage non-motorized transport, right? So these are some things which were there in the discussion. And now a lot of slides are there on individual, planning options, right? As to how much and how we will basically be able to reduce, right? So if I were to read all of this, it will take a lot of time, right? But let's just read some of the major points like sulfur reduction, right? So what we said at that point of time was, right, by a 50% sulfur reduction in 2022, right? How is it that we are basically benefiting, right? So we can do like phasing out fuel subsidies, uniform pricing all over the states, right? Truck operators can be, said not to buy, sulfur fuel. Then fuel adulteration was something, wherein we talked about how oil companies should be checking effectively whether their, fuel is being sold from outlets, right? Anti-adulteration cells at the level of ministry, right? Conversion of CNG and LPG, right? A lot of this fleet has been converted now, right? Banning of 15-year-old commercial vehicles, right? So in major, cities, there should be 100% ban. Such vehicles should not be allowed to, enter the borders of these, right? We talked about, you know, reduction of emissions per unit of fuel consumption, right? So when we talked about long term, which is 2025, right? We talked about, a pre-feasibility study for some hotspot, right? So some of these studies have already been undertaken and, the results are being, analyzed and the reports are still underway, but I think they will help a lot in understanding. We have also come to a place where we can now do a sensor-based real-time tracking, right? So that is something which is helping us. New vehicle standards, BS6 already, we have adopted, right? And we can also look at now the other standards, more stringent standards, which would lead to less emissions, right? Uh, we talked about improvement in compliance system, which is existing POC systems. A lot of POC systems previously were happening even without the vehicles going to the testing. Now it is online, so every vehicle has to go and it has to be undertaken there itself, right? Um, we talked about increasing the share of electric vehicles. We talked about hybrid vehicles. We talked about how hybrid vehicle technology, we have seen it now, though the hybrid vehicle technology, some states have already started giving subsidies. Basically, they have said that, if you're buying a hybrid vehicle, we will not charge you a very high registration fees, right? Which is a very good step to promote hybrid vehicle technology. And the way I understand is that with the hybrid vehicle technology, the emissions, the fuel efficiencies of petrol vehicles especially is almost 3 times than the normal, fuel efficiency. So that is a great intervention, right? We talked about retrofitting of devices, right? Basically retrofitting all the heavy duty diesel vehicles with the what you call sulfur traps for PM and sulfur, right? Which is underway. A lot of these technologies are being done at present. We talked of banning of old vehicles and regulating roadside parking. So a lot of things have happened in Mumbai, I can say, in terms of stopping parkings on the roadside and banning of old vehicles. Right, in MMR you cannot register a 15-year-old vehicle anymore. Right, in Delhi metropolitan region you cannot actually do that. Right, encouragement of public transport. So yeah, we will talk about it in the next few slides. Right, uh, 1 kilometer of travel by car consumes nearly 5 times more energy than a 52-seater bus with an average load factor of 82%. The corresponding consumption factor for two-wheeler is 2.6, right? So the comparative fuel cost of a car and two-wheelers are approximately 12 to 7% times respectively for the same distance. Besides, the major issue is that a car occupies 38 times more road space as compared to a bus for a kilometer of travel, right? Two-wheeler space requirement is even higher at times, right? So there is a misconception that two-wheelers, they basically take less space, right? They take equivalent space. So if there is a two-wheeler in front of my car, it is taking the same space because I cannot overtake it unless and until the two-wheeler gives me space for that, right? So this is the kind of work we did, right? The emissions from a two-wheeler equivalent to a bus could add 27% higher, whereas the car would cause 70% more pollution. So we basically said that how these line sources, which are basically reducing vehicle distance traveled, right, by preparing a plan for road widening, by developing pedestrian friendly walkways and subways, right, by basically developing rapid transportation systems, right. So I'll come to those slides now, right. And this is a slide which is very busy. I will take it slowly, right. These are control options based on business as usual scenario in 2018, right. So on the y-axis, you are seeing BAU scenarios. Then you are seeing conversion to standard, which is BS4 and BS6. Then conversion of CNG to LPG. Then you are seeing banning of 15-year-old vehicles. You are seeing synchronization of transportation systems. You are seeing of retrofitting of diesel uh, vehicles. You are seeing electric vehicle technologies, hybrid vehicle technologies, banning of odd even scenarios, and then improvement of public transportation system, right? So there are so many categories, and what you basically see are on the x-axis is the kg per day, what do you call emissions. So if the business as usual was there, right, in 2025 we are already looking at 5216 kg per day, right? And then we are basically looking at almost 50% of those values, right? If we happen to implement just the diesel retrofitting by 2025. So this is the kind of information we could actually derive from this analysis, right? Now, in 2018, metro was still under construction, right? So MMRDA was planning to introduce 337 kilometers of metro lines by 26, which is still the case. They have introduced about 100 kilometers out of this right now, right? And annual average PM 2.5 in Mumbai was about 64 that point of time. Today it is more than that, right? And this is what we anticipated as change in transportation after the introduction of Mumbai Metro. So a lot of people who were traveling in local trains, right, would basically shift to metro trains, right, over a period of time. And the metro share, which was 0% in 2017, would increase to about 40% because metro rail travel gives you connectivity which is close, which might be closer to your place where you stay also, and also it is air conditioned, so it gives you more comfort, right? So that is something which we envisaged, right? Public, which is local train travel, would reduce to about 30%. Usage of cars would actually reduce marginally from about 35% to 20%, right? Buses also would actually reduce because of the metro network, which has been envisaged in Mumbai. So a lot of people would be traveling by Mumbai Metro. And this has been the case in major cities like London, Singapore, across the globe, Shanghai, where people have shifted to metros because of the easy connectivity, comfortable travel, right? Now, Metro Line 3, which is basically running from the north, which is in Seeps, all the way to the south of Mumbai, right? Part of this metro is already operational these days, right? Uh, just a few months back. So we don't have any study regarding what has been the impact, but this is the numbers which we can say that how vehicle kilometers traveled would basically reduce, right? By, a full operational metro, right? This is a complete underground metro which is being developed, right? International standards. So part of it is already operational and it is beautiful, I would say, right? These are the numbers which we are saying that how much fuel will be saved, right? And this is the money which is being saved, monetary values in rupees per lakh, right? Average daily, right? Uh, the prices at that point of time were 67 rupees per liter for petrol, which is almost 105 now. So just about not double, but almost 40% increase. So these values would basically be higher now, right? Then emission reduction of traffic, right? We were talking of a lot of reductions in emission load, which is tons per year, right? Um, these are estimated benefits of metro, which is already operational, line 2A and line 7, right? And this brings us to some of the last slides, wherein I would be talking about how the National Clean Air Program is also aiding, right, these kinds of scenarios, right? So green mobility is I would talk about. So stringent implementation of national biofuel policy, right? So we were talking of blending of ethanol, which is already happening now. City action plans, right? So all major cities which were not under compliance were supposed to, and they already submitted action plans, right? Fleet modernization and retrofitment programs. We were talking of congestion management, review of green corridor projects, and scaling up of CNG, implementation. We are also talking of now a scaling up of charging infrastructure because of electric mobility, right? And a lot of R&D is now in hydrogen as a transport fuel, right? E-mobility, there has been a lot of impetus on electric vehicles, right? The FAME was already implemented, FAME 1, FAME 2, FAME 3, right? A lot of focus would be there on the electric vehicle technology, though we are still looking at a lot of improvement in terms of vehicular e-vehicles. A lot of negative news is also around that e-wheelers are still not that great and people are still shying away from buying these vehicles. But still, I see that the third, fourth generation of e-vehicles are far better than what we were seeing in the first few generations, right? Um, charging infrastructure I talked about, right? Uh, in Mumbai, even the BMC, they are hiring only e-vehicles for their cars. So that is some change we have done, right? Um, road dust and construction dust, huge issues, right? A lot of work has been done on this. You must have read in major cities, in Delhi, in Mumbai, there has been sweeping and watering of roads. There are mist and fog machines which are being deployed across the city to basically aid in uh, the the reduction of the dust on the roads, right? Grassing of open spaces, right? Segregation of C&D, construction and demolition waste has been on top priority. In fact, all the construction sites in Mumbai, they are covered. They are by law, if they don't follow it, they are being issued notices, they are being given closed work orders. So a lot of these things are happening. I don't know about much smaller cities, but yeah, these things are happening particularly in this area, right? Demography based control measures, right? So removal of encroachments and hawkers, right? In Indore, we have seen a lot of this work, right, where encroachments have been removed, right? And that is a good step. Need specific urban design, right? Defacilitate cars and reduce parking spaces, increase road tax, right? Legal parking proof caps, right? Illegal parking penalties. We are talking of green tax to be levied by Mumbai, right? And so somebody was talking about, I think Varun was talking about green tax or congestion tax. So this is what it is there, right? It is still not implemented, but we are talking about it, right? Uh, Congestion tax is some news in 2018. We still haven't implemented it, right? Because it went into litigation. So, there is still issue around it, right? Street should be wider, convert best buses into AC buses, right? So that people are attracted to travel, right? So a lot of buses have been now converted to air conditioned, right? And some other, issues like uh, something which is important here is, yes, micro planning light up to what level green spaces and visitor corridors need to be created. Use spaces below flyovers. A lot of these spaces are now being converted into green spaces. There are public gymnasiums being developed. There are walking spaces being developed below these flyovers now, right? And mm, yeah, let's come to the questions now and some final thoughts, right? Where we can introduce, ask more of your contributions. I think I've been speaking for about 1 hour now, right? More than that. So why air pollution reduction plans have not worked, right? Primarily, small steps have not been computed as big steps. Technology field, fixes have yielded some results, but incremental cost is too high. There is technology available for everything, but it comes with a lot of cost. Public transportation systems have been suffering due to congestion, high fuel cost, low occupancy, last mile connectivity, as I talked, right, and a limited support from the institutional system, right. City support program for public transport is basically how we can create a clean air fund, right? Support program for cleaner vehicles, institutional and large occupancy commercial vehicles or commercial buildings to provide mass connectivity. In fact, there have been talks of having different times for different offices and then priority lanes for buses. But as we are seeing in Indore, there is no space for vehicles, so that priority lane is now being converted to general lane. So that is where a lot of these things don't work. Um, we talked about fuel surcharge. We talked about congestion, right? We talked about parking spaces and fuel cost. We talked about insurance cost, maybe uh, increased by implementing a congestion charge. All malls must provide their own free service to nearest train or bus routes. That's what we talked about, right? And this is something which we calculated at that point of time, right? Which was a cost as clean air fund, which could be almost like a 2 crore rupees per day fund, right? Which would basically be used to fund, better bus qualities, faster services, better infrastructure. So this is what we talking about, right? And some final thoughts, including there can be a forecasting system where we can disseminate information through social media and we can real time monitor. It has been done now, right? There are some instruments available now which are basically monitoring in real time. We are talking of international scientific cooperation and institutional framework implementation, right? I will stop here now. I've spoken a lot. Let's open the forum and let's have some healthy discussion. Thank you so much.
I think a great presentations.
Thank
But
you so
actually,
much.
what's happening and what we are seeing on ground, it's not happening.
Yes, yes.
You
And there
must
are
have seen on the cities what's happening in Bombay, Delhi, Goa, Indore even. Indore is a very beautiful city, but even in Indore, what is happening is what is missing, which I feel is missing is one is awareness and second is collaboration. You
100%.
don't
So
have collaboration between different sectors, may it be industry, may it be, let's say, general public, may it be office, maybe bureaucracy.
yeah.
There seems to be a disconnect. One. So
And
collaboration is missing, awareness is missing. What should be done and should be done now, today? You should start at the school level. You start from KG nursery, start environment. Start saying this will happen. I will tell you why. Why this awareness, collaboration is missing is I was taking a presentation in GMA on basically the same subject, climate change. And I was speaking for 2 hours, there was no effect. Then I played a video of Wayanad's landslides and showed them that this has happened. So this is not happening tomorrow, this is happening today. This can happen to you, this can happen to your children. Then I could see the people waking up. This can happen to you today. This can happen to your children. So I think awareness is missing and collaboration is missing. So unless we do these two things, whatever rules we have, but the sheer numbers, the transport or population, however, disposable income is going up, and that's not going to go down. So I think that's the problem. You need to have awareness. Like programs like this are very good. Dr. Jagwani has done is very, very good. Programs like this, but it should start at a standard one level. Then it will make a
Right.
difference.
I would add to what you are saying, Marutji, right? I also thought about it a lot, right? Being in this field for the last 30 years, and environment, and I get lost at times that whenever you hear so much of news of pollution, you're reading it throughout the day. But when I travel in Mumbai suburban local trains, and when I go to a lot of other places and see, right, the problem which I also see is poverty, right? People are not equivalent. Everybody is in race. Somebody who is on the sitting on the road, उसको यही नहीं पता है कि आज शाम को उसको खाना मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा. वो पोल्यूशन के बारे में और किसी भी चीज के बारे में नहीं सोच सकता, right? So, sitting in air-conditioned rooms and talking about these things become easier. But the moment you go, Mumbai has population of more than 2 crores, right? And if you look at the disposable income people, or if you look at the rich people, ये बहुत मुट्ठी भर लोग हैं, right? बाकी तो हर एक जना भागा दौड़ी में लगा हुआ है. उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है कि पोल्यूशन हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है, मेरे को चाहिए. मैं ऑफिस से निकला, मुझे सामने दिखा, मैंने लिया, पानी का बोतल पिया या जूस का पैकेट लिया, पिया और फेंका, मैं गया, राइट? आई डोंट केयर व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, राइट? इंदौर इट इज
Yes, sir.
क्लीन, राइट? आई एम सो हैप्पी टू सी इंदौर. इट इज इंदौर के लोग जुनूनी है थोड़े, राइट? दे हैव ओन्ड दैट नाउ कि नहीं, अब हम गंदा नहीं होने देंगे, राइट? मे बी शायद थोड़ा आई थिंक सोशल प्रेशर कम है, थोड़ा सा people have their people own that city very well. Mumbai, everybody is an expat. Everybody has come here to earn money. Probably, they got whatever they have in their lives because of Mumbai, because of financial capital, right? So if I just talk of Mumbai right now, right, it is impossible to develop a policy which encompasses all these things. And on top of it, there will be interest groups, there will be people who have their own agendas in terms of politics, in terms of social, in terms of so many other issues, which we hear in various forums. Not a great forum to say about those things, especially in online modes. But yeah, there are other things which creep up at the last moment, even to implement such policies, right?
कोलैबोरेशन नहीं है. जैसे मुंबई आपने कहा बिल्कुल डाइवर्स है, इनकम डिस्पैरिटीज हैं, सब कुछ है. बट अगर कोलैबोरेशन होगा, अगर जो रोज की रोटी कमा रहा है उसको बोलेगा अगर पोल्यूशन कम होगा तो मैं रोटी कमाने में आसानी होगी, तो उसको समझ में आएगा.
Correct.
वो अवेयरनेस वो बताने वाला कोई है ही नहीं.
100%.
कि अगर ये सिटी रहेगी तब तो आप कमाओगे. अगर आपका ऐसा क्लाइमेट चेंज हुआ, तो अगर ऐसा ही 5 डिग्री टेम्परेचर बढ़ा, तो 2100 तक ये मुंबई नगरी आपकी आधी डूब जाएगी.
करेक्ट.
ये कोई बताएगा तो सुनेंगे,
हाँ,
लेकिन ये बताएगा नहीं तो कैसे पता लगेगा?
वो बहुत अच्छी बात बोली आपने कि that of information is being generally close forums rather than out in public. So that is something which needs to be done. That's a good point.
Sir,
Yes.
thank you so much for the question, sir. I just would like to add to what you said. See, when I started thinking of this, I'm from a humanities background. But what made me interested to choose this FTP was like I was thinking, what can be done? Well, see, instead of talking, we are reading. As teachers, we are reading Silent Spring, we are watching movies. But I don't know how much we communicate. So when I joined for this FTP, that was my question. Why this FTP and how I'm going to use this? So somebody said earlier that I'm not using a motor vehicle, but I'm also suffering. So I won't agree to that because I would say one way or the other, we are all contributed to how environment is. We all are part of that. So I
100%.
still remember when I was in my school, I still remember, I'm 40 right now, like I'm into my 40s right now. I still remember at that my age, when I was a kid, my teachers used to say, do not throw chocolate wrappers in the classroom. We didn't have a dustbin at that time. But we are not supposed to throw it in the school premise, and she made it mandatory that we put it in our bag, carry it back to home. So that at least next day, your mother doesn't send chocolate wrappers. Like, I still remember. So I would say some things that as we educators, We should educate our students. That should be like compulsory. And again, adding to what you said, I would say in India, the problem is we don't have this stringent government policies. There is no social pressure, I would say. Because as you said, when you went abroad, even I've heard how things work abroad. My relatives are there, my friends are there. They opt 90% they opt public transport because of these rules that is clearly made into effective. And second thing I would say, see, for example, I'm from Kerala, and right now I work in Andhra. So I see in Andhra, a very small example is that people are not even bothered of wearing helmet. That's a very simple thing. But in Kerala, since the policy came into practice, now it's mandatory that not even the driver, but the passenger also has to wear helmet. So I wonder when I came to Andhra that they don't even, the vehicles are like 20, 18 years old vehicles. They don't even bother about anything. So awareness should be there. And I don't know how that's going to happen. Maybe in the immediate 5 years or our generation. I don't know, sir, because seriously, I'm really sad.
See what
I'm really sad.
I when I was a student at IIT Bombay, after almost 3 months in the program, I was doing my PhD. So we were supposed to do 2 courses in that semester. So I took a course by Professor Asulekar. He's a very famous professor, right? And we were talking of pollution. So I got instigated. I said, well, sir, this is nonsense. We are sitting in air-conditioned classrooms in IIT Bombay campus, beautiful place. And we keep on talking about these things. There is nothing happening. And this is, I'm talking about 2001, right? So it's about 23 years back. So he told me he told me that I understand, Nitin, your emotion, right? And we teach these things in the humanities and social science department. And I'm happy to know that you are from that background. He says that you have a choice to either be a environmentalist, which is basically someone who would be an activist, right? Or the the place where you have come to do your PhD, which is environmental science and engineering, right? You can choose to be a part of solution finding based on environmental engineering knowledge, right? So I sat down quietly. I understood very clearly that, okay, being a science and technology student, my job is to basically look at how I can now solve the problem technologically with scientific proofs. But over the period of last 21 years, right, I'm very happy to see that a lot of these boundaries have actually now faded away, right? We are talking to each other. Previously, we were not talking, right? Now we have
At least that is
yes, we are talking to people, we are talking to policymakers, we are talking to thought think groups, we are talking to people who are communique. I believe that's the name, COMMINIQUE. These are some organizations which only communicate, right? Their job is to basically disseminate information, right? And some of them are working in environmental field, and a lot of them are also working in diverse fields, right? Uh, just to disseminate the information. Okay, we have hands up by Rajeshri Kamath, and then we have by Shankarji, right?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
This is Dr. Rajshri Kamath. I'm Associate Professor Man at Architecture and Planning Department.
Oh, wow.
So you're present. Yes.
So you also teach city planning by any chance, or have you read that subject? I believe.
Yes. In fact, what you said, I expertise, whatever research I have done, I expertise in disaster management and related issues.
Very good.
But then my base is architecture and planning. And as you said, my publications show me as an expert of environmental science and engineering.
Okay.
So then I have a question. Like thank you very much and congratulations for a very wonderful presentation. You almost touched all possible points. One question lingers in my mind because I had been traveling from Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Delhi. I live in Bhopal, and then to recently I had been to many cities of Italy, then Belgium, even China. So one question that lingers still in my mind, that have you considered the choice makers options? Like if I am a person who has the choice to choose the mode, suppose in Beijing or in Hong Kong or in Bhopal or in Delhi. So have you considered those things in your studies? Because I will give you one very important input then. Like origin destination studies you might have conducted in all the studies that you have shown.
Correct. Correct.
So one major point that I observe is the traveler's opinion. Like whenever we go anywhere nowadays, a lot of disposable income is there. So many people are there who don't consider, like they want to save time. That is the first priority. So in Delhi also, if I have to go from airport to Rohini, the traffic takes 3 hours. Whereas from Bhopal to Delhi, I go in 1 hour. Like, or means that takes little time and little harassment or pollution, or even in a very good taxi, it is like no good. And in Italy we get all the public transport, the metros and all, or in Beijing, or recently I had been to Belgium, Brussels. So last mile, that provisions they have taken very beautifully taken care,
That's what.
because there they have the buses connecting buses, and the micro planning that you have mentioned in your studies also, that micro planning, the ward wise micro planning is very important, because everywhere you need to plan stops for the metro, and then the last connectivity through the buses or whatever. But
E-rickshaw. Let's say
e-rickshaw I most dislike on the roads.
I know they are creating more panic than But
So
I think the free travelers, because in Delhi I have seen that, right? They will block the roads, they will stand everywhere, and they are unregulated. I understand that very well.
yeah,
So
slowly their confidence has increased a lot.
I would just point out, I have noted your point, traveler's choice, and
Yeah.
really, explore that. But the moment you start comparing, Miss Dr. Ashri, the first point is sheer population numbers, right?
Yes.
If you go to any place in the world, we don't have that kind of population to deal with the way we have in our metros, So,
Yes.
so that is something which is a sheer killer of all policy matters. That any model which you want to adopt from any cities across the globe, right? It fails at that last, juncture where we talk of numbers. कितने लोग जाने वाले हैं?
Okay.
उतने टाइम में कितनों को आपको भेजना है, right? That is something which is humongous. Anyway, let's take a comment.
Actually, one more thing I want to add to sir is that he's rightly said, you're not comparing like to like. You're not comparing like to like.
Let's take a question from Dr. Shankar. He has been waiting patiently.
Yes, thank you so much,
We'll
Nitin
come
sir.
back to you. Please, Dr. Shankar.
Sir,
Dr. Shankar,
sir,
you
am
may
I audible?
unmute yourself, please.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. I am Dr. Shankar. My area of specialization is into the environmental systems planning with focus on sustainable design and circular economy. So thoroughly for the past decade, I've been working on creating this awareness events, activities, etc., and working on to this particular sustainability. And recently, we have worked on like project in developing a life cycle inventory data set for Indian transportation system, where we observed a lot of points which you have given. So in that particular concept, I have two questions to take your suggestions on that particular one, because building up a long-term plan over a period of time for a country like India, it requires a very big component. So in that direction, sir, can you provide your viewpoints on development of roadside vegetative buffers to reduce the air pollution? This is my first question. And second one is your viewpoints on sustainable urban transportation strategies and green infrastructure integration to implement and mitigate urban heat island effect caused by this transportation system, sir.
I think probably there's some connectivity issue.
Hello?
I think there is some connectivity issue. We'll try to connect with sir again.
Okay, okay, okay. Even I have dropped my questions in the chat box. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Thank
We'll
you.
try to get in touch with him again.
Thank you.
Dr. Shankar, I think while sir comes, I would like, since you have done LCA, you said, and roads and all, so I have a question for you. You know, which is better, whether it's a cement road or a bitumen road or a, you know, what sort of road is best considering your LCA details and LCA analysis which you have done?
Sir, first of all, coming to from an LCA point of view, we will not come, even in the comparison, we will not say this is better than that. So it is not to provide a better alternative. It is to understand the impacts of both and find alternatives for doing a better decision making. So when we compare it from a complete life cycle perspective point of view, if in a given location, if your raw material sources which are coming and the transportation becomes very higher for a rigid pavement, then it will have more amount of impacts. Whereas, and it becomes vice versa. So it is geographic specific, temporal specific, technology specific. So never come out with a conclusion from a life cycle perspective that this is better than that. Why? Because for me, it is a comparison of a process to a process based on my given system boundaries, sir. So concluding on a point like this is better than that, rather I would say I would take a better decision in implementing my system to improve my environmental systems for a given geographic location or a specific one, sir.
Okay, thank you. I missed some of the part. I got disconnected. There was some internet issue, right? Then I jumped from my phone and then I again switched back. But I'm sure whatever you must have said must be good right, in the interest of the discussion. So, Dr. Jagwani, shall we stop now? It's about 7:30.
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, I think Shankar sir had some queries with you. I'll give your email to him and he'll get in touch with you personally.
Sure, great. That would be great. Thank you so much. We
Is
all,
that fine, Shankar sir?
Yeah,
please do
100%, ma'am.
please share my
So
email.
I'll definitely share sir's email, and I would like to thank.
Even if you cannot get from anywhere, you can search Nitin Goyal Niri. You will find my homepage and all information there, right? So please, please, I would love to talk to all of you because you all are teachers. I have been a teacher all my life. It's just the last 5 years I am actually now working with a central government organization like this, right? Where I am not teaching full time, but I am also guiding students and trying to find out solutions. And now I can also see how policies are being developed and stuff like that. So I bring a fresh perspective, but I also feel that a lot needs to be learned. So thank you so much for all your comments today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. It is always a wonderful interaction getting in touch with you. And I would like to thank personally that you've taken time out of your busy schedule and enlightened us over a wonderful topic of transportation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much for your invitation. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and listening to me patiently. Thank you so much.